speakers.
How does this help? How does this help?
Hold on, if you could, please give your name and the organization you represent, so we have some context for that. Thank you.
Bill Cohen from Public Radio. Mr. Williams, if this doesn't lower wages, if this would not lower wages and benefits for workers, then how does it help business? How do you argue both sides? It's going to help business, but it's not going to hurt the workers. Well, how can that be?
Well, I think the research has to speak for itself, and I'll just stand behind the research. That the fact of the matter is, in those states that have right to work, if you analyze their wages versus those that have forced unionism, the wage disparity isn't there. And the other thing is, for those states that have provided freedom in the workplace more recently, the studies bear that out. It's an economic, it's a function of the economy.
Well, what was it then that helped those businesses grow if it wasn't the ability to dampen down wages and benefits? How did business grow?
I can add to that if you like. I mean, the economies don't occur in a vacuum.
Can you go to the mic?
Sure. Economies don't happen in a vacuum. There's a ton of contributing factors. So, for instance, you make one change, it's going to affect something else. I think the example he used is actually very good, which is an entire state can be buoyed. The entire economic climate in an entire state goes up. That's good for everybody involved, every single individual. So this isn't a business's desire isn't to say, boy, I really hope we can pay low wages. That's never a consideration. Not a single time. It's not a consideration for a business. What they're wanting to do is say, can, in this environment, with my ability to be flexible within the business climate, my ability to do business, to make any kind of adjustments that I need to, is it possible for me to pay a good and fair wage to people out there while maintaining a profit for myself? Because, once again, case studies, we're citing the research, is look at Ohio. We don't have to go anywhere but our state. Look at what happened to our auto industry and our steel industry and our coal industry. And this broke my heart. Broke my heart. It's included in the press packet. If you picked up one of these sheets, just absolutely broke my heart from last month. There's an article from the Wall Street Journal in here talking about new tire plants being set for South Carolina. Tire plants in South Carolina. Akron's not even considered. We were the rubber capital of the world, and all those companies are gone, and they weren't even considered for. In this case, it was Continental and Bridgestone are both opening up multi-billion-dollar operations in South Carolina. Why? We had the workers, we had the proximity to population, we had the natural resources, we had the infrastructure, yet we're not even considered. So we need to get jobs coming in. We need to buoy the entire economic climate, and that's what's going to make wages go up. That moves everybody forward. So we want definitely good wages need to be out there. I think there's anybody in the world that would argue with that. But if you're disproportionately killing the economy in other places with no flexibility in the business climate and only simply through forced unionization pushing one side up, the other side's never coming with it. There has to be a give and take.
Chris, so it's been about a year since I looked at this, and so I forget. Are you arguing that wages in South Carolina, Tennessee, Oklahoma, Arkansas, those states are indeed higher than Ohio's average salary?
No, it's not. Not on the front end. We're talking about a medium rise. So prosperity moves up as opportunity moves in. So it's not dollar to dollar.
I can answer that. Real wages are higher. So there are wages after costs of goods and services that you purchase, not versus nominal wages. So inflation tends to be higher. Cost of goods and services tends to be higher in forced union states. So sometimes what you see is nominal wages are still higher in states that are not forced union. In some states, nominal wages are lower, but real wages are higher because their cost of living ends up actually being higher, particularly when you include after-tax income. Taxes tend to be lower in these states, which also leaves real incomes being higher. And I also wanted to address a philosophical assumption in Bill's question that I think helps drive the point home here, and that is that a Nobel laureate economist, Friedrich Hayek, once famously said, the size of the pie is not independent of how it's distributed. And so if the pie is as big as my fist and workers get 20%, well, they're doing 20%, they're doing okay. But if the pie is this big and workers still get 20%, well, they're actually much, much better off. So wages can rise even when businesses improve. And I think that's empirically been shown. In fact, that's the entire theory of capitalism. As Bryan indicated, a rising tide brings all ships higher.
Is the goal, Bill Hershey in Daily News, is the goal to gather the signatures in time for the 2012 ballot? He mentioned it could be 2012 or 2013.
Yeah, I mean, it would be, so, yeah, we answered this one real personally. Everybody remembers how long it took us, because there was a lot of news stories from everybody in the room. We don't know the answer to that question right now, truthfully. We know what it took us last time, which was probably about a year and a half, to gather all those signatures. And so we are committed to this as a grassroots organization, as a burgeoning coalition that's being built right before your eyes, which is precisely and exactly what happened the last time, is that we're going to build this and we're going to get signatures the day that we're allowed to start, which hopefully is right after the ballot board hearing and the Secretary of State gives approval. And then the timeline up at that point is really very much up in the air. We'll be working as hard as we can. I think it's tough to say 6 months from now we've got all those things. So we are committed to this for the long haul. I think that's the easiest way to say this is we're committed to getting the job done, which is really the same thing we told you with healthcare is, hey, if we could have gotten it done quickly, we'd be great with that. But we were going to commit to doing it under any circumstance, and that's the same thing I can tell you today. Is I don't have a crystal ball, but we're committed to getting the job done.
So to be clear, it is not your stated goal to be on the ballot for the November 2012?
No, our stated goal is to be on the ballot when we gather all the signatures. we know the reality of what happened for us last time.
Chris, you got support from the Ohio Republican Party this time around with District 3. Have you gotten any kind of commitment from the party this time around?
No.
Do you need them?
No, nor has it been requested. Now, to tell that story again, because there are really so many parallels between both healthcare and workplace freedom. The parallels there were, we did this on our own for, my goodness, I don't think even the Republican Party engaged until very close to the end.
We had over 300,000 signatures.
Yeah, well, they ended up, they contributed maybe 2,000 signatures in the end, their entire effort. So our volunteers actually got 440,000 signatures on their own. Again, we're committed to doing that. So regardless of where the support lies, our interest is very unique in that it's not a political interest. I think that's something that we saw play out in healthcare as well, is, hey, we'll support you if it sort of politically makes sense for any of the respective parties, but our interest is a citizen's interest. Our interest is a personal freedom interest. Our interest is an economic freedom interest. And that's very different because one of our philosophical challenges with the party system, truthfully, is they operate in their own self-interest. They want to perpetuate their own existence, and they do that first. We want to bring and secure good policy for Ohio that makes sense for me and my kids, and hopefully generations of my kids that want to stay here. I don't really care what the parties do or say in this instance. If they want to support, we would love and welcome their support. This is an anti-party thing, but this has to be done regardless of what the parties believe, because it's the right thing for Ohio. So we're not going to do all the political calculations to make the decisions. I think that it is long overdue that states and citizens started taking a role, and we have to control our states. We cannot outsource our thought and our policy and what is supposed to be happening in states to politicians who regularly promise things that they never deliver on. This must be something that citizens believe in, and that's how it is for us. I mean, we've been working on this quietly, learning, studying, figuring out who would like it for something close to a year. We had no idea that the environment would change in any way. It doesn't change the fact that it's still good policy for Ohio.